Sako rifles are some of the most respected bolt-action rifles in the world, and yet most people don't actually understand why. They know Sako's Finnish, they know it's expensive, they know it's accurate, but that's surface-level knowledge. It's brochure talk. The truth is, Sako rifles sit at a very strange intersection of military necessity, old-world craftsmanship, and modern precision engineering. And that combination is the reason Sako has the reputation it does today. So in this video, we're not doing generic praise. We're not doing Sako's premium because it's premium. We're going deep. Here are 5 genuinely interesting, often overlooked facts about Sako rifles that explain why they shoot the way they do, why they cost what they cost, and why they've managed to stay relevant for over a century. Number 1, Sako was born out of war and national survival, not sports shooting. The way a Sako rifle is born is completely different from how most people imagine. There's something surreal about standing in Finland and realizing that this isn't just another gun factory. You're not looking at mass production in the usual sense. You're looking at a place that exists because rifles were never optional here. They were necessary. Survival tools. National tools. That context matters because it explains everything that follows. When Sako builds a rifle, the process doesn't start with assembly. It starts with raw steel that hasn't been asked to become anything. The bolt, for example, doesn't begin as a collection of parts. It starts as a single forged piece, intentionally overbuilt from the beginning. That forging isn't about speed or cost, it's about strength and consistency. You can see it immediately once machining begins. 5-axis CNC machines hollow it out, carve it, and shape it, but the identity of the bolt never changes. It remains one solid component, not something stitched together later. And here's the thing people miss. The machines aren't trusted blindly. Every step feeds data back into quality control. Measurements aren't random. They're tracked, logged, compared, and corrected in real time. If something even begins to drift toward the edge of tolerance, the system flags it before it becomes a problem. This isn't government-mandated testing. This isn't compliance theater. This is done because Sako customers expect rifles that simply don't fail. That philosophy carries over to the receiver. Watching a raw block of steel turn into a finished receiver feels almost unreal. Robots move parts between machines, but the work itself is surgical. Milling, cleaning, finishing, over and over until what comes out barely resembles what went in. And even then, it's not considered done. Heat treatment, surface finishing, chemical processes, all of that still comes later. Precision isn't rushed here. It's layered. Barrels are where Sako quietly separates itself from most of the industry. Instead of cutting rifling, Sako cold hammer forges their barrels. That means the rifling isn't carved out, it's impressed into the steel using extreme pressure around a hardened mandrel that already contains the rifling profile. The steel stretches. It flows. Nothing is removed. No shortcuts, no compromises. And afterward, the barrel is stress relieved in a furnace to eliminate internal tension caused by hammering. The result is a barrel that doesn't need a break-in ritual to behave itself. It's accurate from the moment it leaves the box. That's not marketing talk, it's a direct result of how the metal is formed. But even after all that automation, this is where Sako does something old-fashioned. Every single barrel is visually inspected by a human being. Not a camera, not a sensor. A trained eye looking through the bore, checking the chamber, the crown, and the rifling for defects that machines might miss. Because no matter how advanced manufacturing becomes, Sako still believes some judgments shouldn't be automated. Assembly follows the same mindset. One gunsmith assembles the entire rifle. Receiver, barrel, bolt, start to finish. That person signs off on it, literally. There's accountability built into the rifle itself. Pride of workmanship isn't a slogan here. It's baked into the workflow. Then comes proof testing. Every rifle's fired with overpressure ammunition, roughly 30% higher pressure than normal operating loads. Not once, multiple times. After that, the chamber's measured again to confirm nothing moved, stretched, or deformed. Only then is the rifle considered safe. Number 2, Sako's barrel-making process is the real secret behind their accuracy. Everyone talks about Sako accuracy, but very few people understand why Sako rifles shoot so well across so many calibers. The short answer is barrels. The long answer is more interesting. Sako has historically maintained extremely tight control over its barrel manufacturing process. They don't outsource barrels, they don't rush production, and they don't treat all calibers the same. Sako hammer-forged barrels are produced with caliber-specific bore dimensions, twist rates, and chamber geometries that are tuned for real-world ammunition, not just ideal lab conditions. This is a big deal. Many rifle manufacturers chase accuracy by optimizing for a narrow window. One bullet weight, one velocity range, one ideal load. Sako takes the opposite approach. They build barrels that perform consistently across a broad range of factory ammunition. That's why you hear so many shooters say things like, "My Sako shoots everything well." That doesn't happen by accident. It's also why Sako barrels tend to hold accuracy for a very long time. Proper steel selection, controlled forging, and conservative pressure tolerances mean the barrels don't burn out quickly or lose consistency after a few thousand rounds. This isn't flashy accuracy, it's durable accuracy. In the real world, that matters far more. Number 3, Sako actions are intentionally overbuilt. If you've ever cycled the bolt on a Sako rifle, you'll probably notice something immediately. It doesn't feel slick in the lightweight race gun sense. It feels solid. It's because Sako actions have always been structurally conservative by design. The locking lug geometry, bolt diameter, receiver wall thickness, and overall action stiffness are all built with significant safety margins. These rifles are designed to handle high-pressure cartridges, extreme cold, and long-term use without developing issues. This matters more than people realize. Cold weather thickens lubricants. Metal contracts, ammo pressure changes. In places like Finland, Canada, and Northern Europe, rifles don't live pampered lives. Sako designs accordingly. This is also why Sako actions are famously smooth after break-in. They're not polished to feel good on day one. They're machined to last, then wear in naturally. That's old-school engineering, and it's becoming increasingly rare. Number 4, Sako didn't compete with Tikka, it created it. One of the strangest things about comparing Sako and Tikka is that on paper, they can look almost identical. You take both rifles to the range, same day, same conditions, factory ammo. You shoot a few groups, walk down range, and you're staring at holes that are honestly hard to tell apart. Sub-MOA here, sub-MOA there. If you're being honest, you could probably swap the targets and most people wouldn't notice. And that's where a lot of people stop thinking. They look at the group size and go, okay, so why does one cost so much more? But here's the thing, accuracy on paper is only one slice of the experience. It's the easiest part to measure, and ironically, it's the part where Sako and Tikka are intentionally closest. The difference shows up everywhere else. You feel it the moment you start running the bolt. Not fast, not aggressively, just normally. There's a certain resistance or lack of it that's hard to describe unless you've cycled a lot of rifles back to back. The Sako doesn't just feel smooth, it feels settled. Like every movement's dampened just enough to feel controlled, not slick for the sake of being slick. With the Tikka, the bolt is fast, light, almost eager. It wants to run. And for a lot of shooters, that's exactly what they want, especially hunters who value speed and weight over everything else. But the Sako feels like it's thinking about the next round before you are. That difference doesn't come from magic, it comes from small decisions stacked on top of each other. 3 locking lugs instead of 2, a shorter bolt lift that feels deliberate rather than rushed, tighter tolerance stacking across the action and receiver interface. None of that suddenly turns a half MOA rifle into a quarter MOA rifle overnight. What it does is make the rifle feel more consistent when conditions aren't perfect, when you're tired, when you're cold, when the rifle hasn't been cleaned in a while, when you're cycling it under stress instead of from a bench. That's the kind of stuff you don't see in a 5-shot group photo. You notice it when recoil impulse feels different even with similar calibers. Not softer necessarily, just more predictable. The rifle comes straight back instead of doing something slightly off axis. It's easier to stay in the scope, easier to spot your own impact. And ergonomics play a bigger role here than people like to admit. On the Sako, the stock geometry, grip angle, and balance all feel like they were designed around control, especially in heavier configurations. It's a rifle that wants to sit still. It wants to soak recoil. It rewards deliberate shooting. The Tikka, by contrast, feels like it was designed around movement. Lighter, more neutral, easier to carry all day without thinking about it. It doesn't ask much of you, and that's not a weakness, that's the point. Where people get confused is assuming that one philosophy is objectively better. It's not. They're optimized for different realities. If you're hiking hard, climbing elevation, counting ounces and you want a rifle that shoots far better than its price suggests, Tikka makes an insane amount of sense. It gives you confidence without asking for commitment. But if you're the kind of shooter who notices how a trigger breaks when your heart rate's up, or how a bolt feels on the fifth rapid follow-up instead of the first, the Sako starts to justify itself quietly. Not loudly, quietly. That's also why range tests can be misleading. One afternoon with factory ammo doesn't reveal long-term behavior. It doesn't show how the rifle holds its character after years of use, or how it feels when tolerances start to matter more than raw accuracy. And this is where the price gap finally makes sense. Number 5, Sako rifles have seen real military and professional use quietly. Sako doesn't advertise military contracts the way some companies do. But make no mistake, Sako rifles have been trusted by professionals for decades. From Finnish military sniper rifles to law enforcement precision rifles used across Europe, Sako actions and barrels have been quietly employed in roles where reliability matters more than branding. Sako's long relationship with Beretta has only strengthened this position, giving the companies access to global manufacturing resources while allowing Sako to maintain its engineering independence. This balance, old-world craftsmanship backed by modern industrial support, is rare. It's also why Sako has managed to stay relevant while many legacy rifle makers have declined or been absorbed into purely cost-driven production.